Good afternoon. Welcome to NeoConnect 2020. NeoConnect is NeoCon's online series of resources, programming, and events designed to connect the community throughout the month of June. I'm Blair Lofspring, Managing Director of Leasing and Marketing for LuxeHome at the Mart. I want to thank you for joining us. Today's session, presented by LuxeHome, is part of a month-long series of CEU webinars hosted by NeoCon. The session is approved for 1 IDCEC credit for interior designers and 1 AIA-LU for architects. You can find the details on CEU credits at the bottom of your screen or at neocon.com. Questions will be answered at the end of the session. Please feel free to add any questions you have during the session to the Q&A icon at the top or bottom of the screen. Our speakers will do their best to answer as many questions as possible in the time allotted. Today's presentation is Strengthening Campus Communities Through Food Service Design. Food has always played a pivotal role in cultivating and building communities, especially within campus environments. Through case studies, the speakers will explore the different ways to design for food service in campus settings and how each serves a specific function while reflecting the communities they serve. Our speakers today: Daniela Holt Voith is a founding principal of Voith Mactavish Architects in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is a nationally recognized expert in the design of educational environments and is known for designs that carefully suit her clients' missions, reflect their architectural identities, and assist in achieving their strategic goals. In addition to the long-term working relationship with the University of Pennsylvania Law School, her clients include Yale University, Lehigh University, and the Lawrenceville School. Daniela is a member of AIA, IIDA, and is a lead associate. Sennah Loftus is an associate principal at Voith Mactavish Architects in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where she manages some of the firm's largest and most complex projects for clients in all markets. She is also a leader of the firm's full-service interior design studio. Sennah particularly excels at designing high-performance environments that incorporate the latest technology and systems, most recently for the University of Pennsylvania and Lehigh University. Please join me in welcoming Daniela Holt Voith and Sennah Loftus.
So red equals passion and excitement. And on Valentine's Day, we all know that it means love. Today, we're going to be talking about food. And you don't have to be a Jewish mother like I am in order to know that food is essentially love. I'm Daniela Holt Voith, happy to be here. And you need to know that red is my favorite color.
So as much as Daniela loves red, I love orange. I find the color to be cheerful, it's bright, it's strong, and it really evokes happiness, and I find it to be hopeful. And although a lot of people I found are weary of it, I think it goes with a lot of different color palettes and could be the choice for many people. So red and orange, two things to remember about us.
So what we're really talking about today is the environments in which we build campus community, and oftentimes that community is built around the sharing and breaking of bread, those important passings that happen, whether it's birthdays or major announcements or any kind of celebration, often goes hand in hand with the enjoyment of a really beautiful meal. When we start designing a food service venue, we need to think about what types of foods will be served and what kinds of foods, where those foods come from. We're going to be talking a minute about a project that we did at Millbrook School. And one of the things that we did was the school invited in Dan Kish from Panera Bread to think about the type of food and how we wanted to treat the food in the design of our facility. So out of that investigation grew a mission statement, which the school developed and was basically our mantra as we started to design this project. Community eats from the same table. Where we eat, how we eat, and what we eat is based on our commitment to stewardship and integrity. And if you think about it, that's a really deep statement and core to the school's values. The school looks like this. Beautiful, bucolic. The buildings are small. They're federal style for the most part, either brick and slate with slate roofs, as you see here, or sometimes they're clapboard. In designing buildings for campuses, Sennah and I love to design ones that really fit in with the school, strengthen the whole, and in the end, make more out of the environment that exists. When the trustees asked us to design their new dining hall, they did so with the expectation that the new dining hall would be as important a building as their chapel, which you're seeing here. It's a very simple building, actually, their chapel is. It has large windows, high ceilings, gorgeous chandeliers. That sense of calm and simplicity is something that permeates the school, and we wanted to very much draw upon as we started to design the new center of community.
And so we sited the new dining hall on the northern end of campus. This location really maximized the integration of the facility within the landscape and within a developing farm program that existed on campus. The new dining hall was an addition to an existing dining hall that was terribly undersized and that the school had really outgrown. The large volume of the new dining hall is set behind the old in the same orientation. And the two are connected via a north-south axial corridor. And you can see to the north yet are the farm and the orchard, as well as hoop houses that was already a developing program on campus. The farm is very much thought of as a structured herb and garden beds. We thought of these more in the foreground with the apple orchard, being able to define an edge for the dining hall and the farm, and then the hoop houses being these volumes that move depending on the season in the farmland just beyond. And this is all in the context of the very sort of beautiful rolling hills in the far foreground, background beyond. This view allows a glimpse into the play between the existing dining hall on the right and the new dining hall on the left, and you can see that north-south axial corridor in the middle, topped with the cupola, just highlighting one of the entrances. You can see perhaps from this view the contextual way that we decided to detail the new pieces to be very much in line and respecting the existing context of the existing dining hall, with actually a dormitory up on the second floor. In plan, there are three main entrances, the one from the bottom of the screen, and then one on the left and one on the right, that all converge at that cupola that we just saw a moment ago. The last fourth entrance or egress, I would say, is up at the top, which extends to the north towards the farms. The north-south connection, this is underneath the cupola is the image on the left. It's kept light and bright with windows to the courtyard. The cupola is seen from below. Actually, there's natural light coming in from the cupola, and you can see it through it. The materials and the furniture respond to the refined agrarian context. We have a built-in bench that's along, you can see in the image on the left, and then it's on the right-hand side of the image on the right, that has hooks over it, which is really to serve for bag and coat drop for all the students. So they're on their way to dining room, they can drop their bags and their coats and just leave them there on their way. Kids, we heard, are kind of lazy in the sense that they don't want to go out of their way to drop their bags, so we made it easy for them. We have very durable materials here on the floor. It's a slate material with slate base, easy for mopping. And then the Windsor Chair Company benches along the sort of light-filled corridor leading to the dining room. This is the northern egress and entry at the terminus of the north-south axial corridor. You can see the historical photo. We've located historical photos all throughout the building, and this is to relate back to the existing history and community of the school. Yeah. And you can start to see, actually, in this photo, a glimpse of the bleached pear trees. Again, you know, bringing the landscape in and out, and directing our sightline right to those farms to the north. On the eastern edge of the building plan, we located the kitchen on the very far north, closest to the farms, and it wraps around the servery in the middle. At the very bottom of this eastern wing is the dish room. So we were very much thinking about getting the students in a clear way and getting them out, being through the dish room at the last point of contact here. So you can see that there's two entrances. The green arrows are entrances from the dining room into the servery, and then it's the same way through to the dish room, the separate doorway in. And then the purple arrows are indicating the service doors to the loading dock and the dumpsters and the recycling and the composting bins. This is a space that really Daniela and I find special. We had room here to create an actual foyer that sits between the dining room on the right and the servery on the left. We made a moment here with the vaulted ceiling and you know the lightly painted blue vault to just create a sense of arrival to the dining hall instead of entering right into the sea of tables and chairs. Within the servery itself, the servery is open to the kitchen. It's allowing for interaction with the folks that are cooking the food and seeing how the food is made. This, you know, for kids, this is a boarding school, so these are high schoolers. And so an understanding that the food doesn't just magically appear on their plate in front of them is something that harkens back to what Daniela was talking about, knowing where the food's coming from, how it's coming, who's making it, and what, you know, the food really matters. The materials we chose for the servery, of course, are all beautiful, but they're also very durable. So we've got terrazzo on the floor, we have slate base, it makes a great combo for mopping. We have plastic laminate veneer on the facing of all the cabinetry, but then it's topped with very durable quartz for countertops and the dish niches. Again, we have tile walls, both ceramic and porcelain, on the walls that are, again, washable and durable. This is a commercial kitchen, so this is all meeting the stringent food requirements. So while the light fixtures are enclosed to mitigate dust from falling on the food, there's of course all the sneeze guards and protection for the food itself. And right here on the left is the pizza oven, which we located happily on axis with the fireplace at the other far end of the dining hall. So not sure if you can see my cursor, but within the servery, right centrally located, it faces directly to the fireplace and the hearth at the opposite end of the dining room.
Yes.
Looking at the dining room, we see the varying height. We have a high central volume and two lower side aisles. This past fall, Daniela and I accepted a Stanford White Award in New York, and the MC there called it the Basilica of Food in an amazing accent, and we laugh. And we laugh, of course, but he's right. You know, the form is very much borrowing this type of building form from the Basilica. So as the high central volume, it's a 22-foot high ceiling, and the lower side aisles are around 9'6" for a ceiling height. The finishes include cork planks on the floor. Again, the slate base is carried through. We've wainscoted the lower half of all the walls and any of the columns to protect from all the chair use that are going to slide and move. Because of the high volume space and you know, volumes, acoustics were very much of a concern. So the cork helps with that footfall, but also the ACT on the ceiling helps. And anywhere that you don't see window, we utilized an acoustical plaster, which helps to bring down that echo or cacophony that could happen. The side aisles have a more intimate perspective, I would say, under this low ceiling. You can see a closer look at all the light fixtures, which are custom, the sconces, the pendants, or these surface-mounted fixtures. And these side aisles also feature fantastic views to the farm and to the courtyard, which I think are augmented by the dark painting of the frames of all the windows, sort of create a termination for you. The tables and chairs are custom as well, and it came from a need from the school, which was they very much wanted the ability to clear out the space to utilize it for other events. They mentioned dances and testing, weddings have actually been in here. So they needed to be able to clear out these large tables because the dining hall, I'm not sure I mentioned it, it seats 380. So it's 38 tables of 10. So they're big, heavy tables. But Daniela worked with Erin Moser of Thomas Moser. She flew up to Maine and went to their workshop and detailed this table, which so I'm saying because I'm jealous I didn't get to go. But you know, it details it so the table can flip up, and they, you know, oddly, this massive table, which is heavy, can lift up. They made skateboards, what they call, to slip under their feet, and the tables glide out of there and nest elsewhere. So they've had that ability to actually clear out the room, which is sort of astonishing. Similarly, the chairs, we worked with Eustace Chair to create a chair that really is for Millbrook. So now if you want the Millbrook chair, it's available from Eustace on their website. But you know, it has the school seal on it, but also the school itself has a mission of, where they live their lives by five principles, 5 core principles. So you're seeing a reference to the 5 ideals with those 5 slats in the back of the chair. And I would say, in light of current events and this pandemic at hand, right, we began thinking about how schools, boarding schools, everybody is going to receive their returning students and how effectively and safely they can feed their community. So utilizing the recommendations from others, the CDC, other restaurants, other people that have already started to think about this, we've started to compile this and think about this for Millbrook. The key items seem to be maintaining a safe distance from each other, obviously minimizing the passing, so people facing each other and walking past each other, wiping down between uses, so cleaning surfaces between meal servings is a big one, and having a marked, clear directional path to keep ingress one way and egress another way, which isn't trying to trying to minimize that face to face. So we've outlined for them a path in, a way to get around the servery, and a path out, how to get out. And we also were utilizing very much the use of plexiglass to help divide the seats. So each of these tables was a table for 10. They're now getting 6 at each with the help of plexiglass dividers separating those spaces. So we've, roughly said that their max capacity originally was, pre-COVID was 380. They can get around 50 less with COVID at play. And I will say that the old dining room, which was now currently used as the campus living room, it's the rectangular footprint you're seeing at the bottom of the screen, that also could be used to fill some of those seats.
Yeah, it's an amazing project. And likewise, a few years later, a year or so later, we were asked to do something similar for the Lawrenceville School, which is a gorgeous campus if any of you have ever been there. The original layout was done by Olmsted. The initial buildings, many of them were designed by Peabody and Stearns, a fine example of which is right in front of you. And the others were done in the early 20th century by Delano and Aldrich. So the CFO at the time asked us to make a space that would create and underscore love and loyalty. So, you know, that's a tall order. And, you know, usually we get, you know, could you please house 630 beds for us? It's not talking about the community, but here, this is really talking about the creation of community, not only love and loyalty to the school itself, but love and loyalty to the individual class, because the dining hall that we designed is really for the senior class. So it's their last year together. So we looked at this building and also, again, the school's chapel, which was pointed out to us as being one of their favorite spaces and also one that they wanted us to draw inspiration from. So note the amazing heavy timber trussing in here, the elaborate tie rods that are steel, the warm tones of the wall and light ceiling, and the school flags, which you can just see some of on the left-hand side of the slide. Next. So the problem was that the dining hall was attached to the building that we looked at just at the beginning. And it was a 1960s addition that was done with a lot of panache, maybe, I don't know. But this sheet wall of glass faces due west, and any of you who've studied the movement of the sun and what that does to the interior knows that western facing glass is just a bear in the you know, late afternoon, early evening as the sun comes in low and hard and directly into the room. So that was an unpleasant experience. So I want you to keep your eye on the right-hand volume, and just keep that in your imagination, and then we'll switch to the next slide. So that left-hand volume, or sorry, I keep saying the wrong thing. The right-hand volume now has a little pyramidal hat on it. And the western facade has been completely transformed. And what was a flat roof is now a pitched roof, right? So you can see that the architectural detail is very much in keeping with the original Peabody and Stearns facade of the dormitory to which this is attached. We did build out about 6 feet in order to make that arched arcade and a little bit more to form the, let's say, the turreted entrance. But all this now makes the entirety of the building feel much more cohesive, along with a terrace that's exactly the same size as the footprint of the dining hall that's inside. So just as there was a transformation from the outside, there was on the inside. This is a site plan, and you can see in gray the dormitory that it's attached to. It's a boys' dorm called Upper. And you can get directly into the dining hall from the dorm or through that turreted entry that we were just looking at off of the terrace. Or the majority of students are coming in on that upper right-hand entry from what's really the center of campus activity. Here we're looking at that door that faces more of the campus. And again, this is a complete transformation from what was, and again, has taken advantage of raising the roof so that we can get a higher ceiling, light coming in from the top. And here we made no accommodation for coats or book bags or whatnot, and they just get dumped on the floor. And that was very much by design. You can just barely see the entry to the servery as the door frame on the left-hand side of this image. So the plan works just in a similar way to the way the Milbert plan works, with the kitchens surrounding the servery, the small dish room off to the side. And the entries come through that. Instead of having the narthex in the Basilica of Food at Millbrook, we have the a primary entry into the servery from that doorway that I was showing you, circulate through, and then you can come in and out directly from the servery into the dining room as well. Service takes place through the service yard with that purple arrow, which is both for deliveries and for trash removal. Here the servery is, the cabinets are actually wood. They're coated with a surface that is, you can wipe down with a disinfectant. The niches for the dishes are all lined in quartz for durability and again, washability. And the same kind of attention to the wall surfaces. The light fixtures, oddly, they're very similar to the Millbrook light fixtures.
Different finish. I think just a different finish.
There's a stack in this case of ovens rather than just one, but again, holding a pride of place. The kitchen's just off to the left-hand side, and again, it's completely open into the servery, and that immediate connection between how the food is being prepared and served and how it arrives onto your plate is so, so, so important. The dining rooms itself, there's the one major one. There's the 6-foot addition that you can see at the bottom with the little triangles that make niches for tables. There are 2 smaller side dining rooms. And then there's one long additional dining room, which serves for students most of the time, but on occasion becomes a boardroom. So you can judge for yourself. This was the existing condition that we found. And what? Yeah, that
I was just judging. I was judging. Sorry.
And this is what the space looks like now. So you can see the enormous effect that taking the roof off and adding the trusses and the tie rods and the chandeliers, which you can see obviously references the chapel slide that you saw at the beginning. And each place where we could, you see L's that are incorporated for Lawrenceville into the trusses. There's acorns and other objects that are iconographic to the school's lore and literature incorporated in the chandeliers and in floor patterns, and the school house flags surround the dining room. So all of the students will have lived in each of those dorms. And even in the niches that you can see that have, of course, red roofs. In this case, we'll say that it's neon red, and I believe it's a Benjamin Moore, if you're looking for it. The top half of the sash of the windows is a custom stained glass, which the colors of which derive directly from the school flags. The tables and chairs are, again, Moser tables, the same tables that we used at Millbrook, and the chairs also from Eustis, but in this instance have been modified to be more in keeping with the room itself. So you can see the arches in the hammer king post truss. You get a similar arch in the backs of the chairs, and again, a Lawrenceville reference. Thanks to Gary Giberson, who runs this amazing organization for food. We have this beautiful picture of what the space looks like as set up for a wedding. So again, that ability to flip top the tables, move them out into the elevator, take them down into the basement is really important to clear a dance floor and make room for the room's flexible uses. How just gorgeous that is. I love it. The details go down to even these amazing limestone fireplaces that we designed. Again, the capitals of the pilasters are taken from other buildings on campus, which then relate to stories that are told about the school and the school's founding. And, you know, again, the school has a lot of lore and literature. Floors are terrazzo. Everything that you see is white oak. So we had a lot of fun with the terrazzo. That's a roach, in case anybody wanted to know. But we also had oak leaves and acorns and strawberries and other shapes. I think we made a big V for fifth form. But this is the kind of sense of humor that the school has about itself. And they're sort of pride and confident enough to say, yeah, there might be roaches running around here, but at least we hope not, but we'll acknowledge. So just this kind of detail makes it for a really fun place to eat. The side dining rooms, again, have that luscious red, and the tables can be pulled together or made into one long one for flexibility again. And I guess from an interior design point of view, one of my favorite details in this room is that we gave the curtains a baseboard. So that black hem matches exactly the black slate baseboard. And it's really to keep the, you know, the white of the fabric background from not showing whatever it might be touching on the floor as much. So just seems like a really elegant space in which to eat. These dining rooms on the side used to be more private, where one was the head of school's dining room, and I think the other one was for an honor society or something. But in this new reincarnation of the space, the rooms are open to all, but reservable for special events. The long boardroom that we showed in plan looks like this. Doesn't have a high ceiling. But again, we wanted it to exude everything Lawrenceville, I'll say. So again, the school colors of the red and black, the custom wallpaper is done by a photographer who came and took scenes from the campus, their beautiful lake and other, you know, they're blessed with a beautiful, luxurious landscape environment. And that became the wall surrounds, the sconces, and again, the tables and the chairs. In this case, Eustace made us leather upholstered ones are a little bit more comfortable, but they're essentially the same chair. And the tables in this case are 5 feet wide, and I think 8 feet long.
Yeah, 7'6".
Yeah, 7'6". And so that's how you get that big long table that you saw in the first image. The carpet was hand knotted in India. It took like 8 months to make. We kept getting photographs of, you know, the roll of the carpet and how it was being knotted. It was just incredible. So that was a really terrific thing to do. And like the Millbrook School diagram, we've plotted one out for Lawrenceville. I know that Lawrenceville is thinking about many other ideas about how to serve food in this time, whether it's outdoor trucks where food can be served and eaten outside, or if there are tents that would be set up. But again, a very similar concept to what we were showing with Millbrook, with a directional in and out, reducing the number of seats at each table, using the plexiglass partitions. So that's again, ways that we can accommodate this space to meet the current standards of what's deemed to be safe.
So luckily for everybody, food isn't just limited to dining halls on campuses. So at the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Business asked us to help them strengthen their brand. They wanted a bigger presence on campus, and they wanted us to help them through the architecture and design to keep students lingering within this building. This was a 1970s, imagine lean-to, sort of glass pavilion. Think about the old fast food restaurants that would have the sunroom, right, attached to it. That was what used to exist, attached to this historic building. This was the last commissioned building by McKim, Mead, and White. So now instead stands Joe's Cafe, located very prominently on Woodland Walk, which it's a strong diagonal path across UPenn's campus. It was an early project by landscape architect Ian McHarg. So they really wanted a place that exuded them. And so what we did here, looking closer at the plan, was we have the servery on the left and the dining room on the right. There's a major entrance from the main corridor within the building into the servery. And then there are 3 entrances from the dining space of the cafe into the servery. And there's a small back of house kitchen behind the servery, and then its own dedicated service entrance that you can see with that purple arrow, which is completely separate from the going-ons of the cafe itself. This is the servery. Something to know about designing a space like this is that you're not going to have any control over the varying shapes and sizes of the pieces of equipment, the extensive pieces of equipment. Every reach-in is different. Every panini press, every, all these, the pot kettles, the soup kettles, everything is different and varying. But what we can do to calm down that experience of all that stuff, we can detail the pieces into the cabinetry. We can design the wall in a way that has this, a controlling line that has all the equipment below it. So that it looks easy and efficient and approachable for very busy students and faculty to come in, get their food, make their way to the point of sale and get out or go to the dining room. Materials, I should say, this is the dining room, showing the dining room space. Oh, you know what? I want to go back to this for a second. So the cafe is made accessible from the Woodland Walk and Garden by way of these ramps. So we've ramped up. There was a substantial grade difference of, I think, 4 feet or so, that we ramped up alongside the glass edge of the seating area. So within that seating area, what we tried to do was to maximize the sight lines and the views out to the garden. So what we did was we tiered the seating. So at the very, the inner wall on the right, what you're seeing in this photo, we have the highest most seating. It's booth seating with high top tables. Then we have this middle row of countertop seating, very much individual work focused on looking outside towards the garden. Within that higher central volume, we have regular, 30-inch high, like 4 tops all the way around, or 2 tops. And then at the very edge of the window, these 20-foot high curtain wall system overlooking the garden and the walk, we have the lower lounge seating with the coffee tables. I should say, we again thought very much about the acoustics in spaces like this. It's high traffic, high volume with many people. So to mitigate sound, we have heavy duty, high rated ACT in the upper ceiling. And we've also have acoustic wrapped fabric around all the walls that aren't glass. We also varied the lighting so that with the sconces that light up of the pilasters, the pendants in the higher volume, or the lower area, the glass cylinders that are lighting the space, that all allows for the flexibility of the different programs that Wharton was really looking to use the space in those different ways.
So the last project that we're going to talk about is one that is less dining focused and more food focused, and that's at the Hotchkiss School, where they were gifted a piece of farmland, beautiful piece of farmland, as you can tell from this aerial, right adjacent to their campus. And they started an organic farming program that the students were involved with during the summer. And they found that it wasn't well integrated into the school and the school's activities, because obviously most of the growing period happens during the summer. And by the time the food was harvested, many of the students, the food had to be given away. And so they wanted to actually store the food, so it would, some of it could overwinter, and it could then be used, that food could then be used in the dining hall. So we were asked at first to design a root cellar, which is one of the more unusual programs I've ever been asked to do. And, you know, I've been in real root cellars that are kind of like a little cave in a hillside, but this is being asked to do something a bit more, you know, functional and meet national health standards, so food standards. So we designed a building that has essentially root cellars and one walk-in refrigerator in the basement, and the program expanded to include a teaching kitchen for food prep, but also food processing, and a large covered porch, which could function both for dining, but also for teaching. And you can see the other farm buildings, they're now changed. I think actually they've built a bigger barn. But if you go to the next slide, it's a very simple structure. Clapboard on the outside, simple farm metal roof, and on a beautiful site. But there's nothing, you know, ornate about this very functional structure. So next slide. Most of what, you know, the activity started being was, you know, planting and taking care of and harvesting food. Here you can see students picking the potatoes up out of the ground. But you can see how, you know, learning where your food comes from can morph almost immediately into science. They wish not to use pesticides. So how do you help control the things that might start eating and destroying your crops? How does, you know, what are the most ideal storage conditions for potatoes? There's actually a big program in the University of Vermont that has been studying this, which I found personally fascinating, which Hotchkiss is learning from. But then the mission became how to expand that building into more of the programs at the school. This is a great diagram that shows how that very simple structure actually works. On the top half of the image, you can see on the left, food being delivered. And then there's a great sink and washing area in a low covered porch to start with. Then you can come in, take a lift down to the basements where the root cellars are and the walk-in refrigerator is. Then the food comes back up and out into the processing kitchen, and then maybe you're making some fabulous meal and you can go out on the porch and eat it. But in terms of mechanical function, what the root cellars concept really is, you know, taking advantage of the more or less constant low temperature of the earth surrounding the basement, and then heavily insulating the floor so that cool air stays within. The little ribbon-like blue line shows an additional idea that we had about bringing cold air in the wintertime back down into those storage areas to get even lower temperatures. On the upper level, we had two big chimneys or ventilators, so there's no air conditioning in this building, but fans pull the hotter air and warmer air up and out. Next. So just to show you what all that looks like, here's beets being washed with it separated from their greens. Next. The front room, which again is so simple. It's a concrete floor with a big floor drain, because that piece of equipment that you're seeing in green is a potato washer which splatters water. The back wall is paneled with, what is that called, Sennah? FRP panels. It's not something that you would normally say was a great material, except for it is, because it works so well. And then you can see into the processing kitchen on the right and the hallway that leads to other functions. Down in the basement, here's a different color potato ready to go into the root cellars. You can see the one door on the right, the door on the right in the center. You can see that they're just refrigerator doors installed into a very thickly insulated wall, and the walk-in refrigerator on the left-hand side. These are big rooms. Next. So here you can see the gourds and pumpkins and everything being stored in one root cellar. You can see the garlics being dried on the porch in the middle, and the inside of the walk-in refrigerator on the right, with some beautiful cider that has just been pressed from the apples on the farm. The food processing kitchen is really a teaching kitchen. The school is organized around the kind of Harkness teaching that they do. So you can see that this is a counter height table. It's also can be pulled out and moved around. But it's so a whole class can come in and learn what to do. The windows just take in the views, as does this porch. You can see the farm, you can see the lakes in Lakeville, and what an amazing place this is. So if you can imagine, for example, an English class coming to this porch and learning about romantic poetry, what a better setting that could be from this than this. Or painting. Art class can come out here and paint landscapes. In point of fact, every department in the school at this point is operating programs that take the farm into account and are making use of this very simple building that has been, so much thought has been put into. The last slide that we have shows this porch being used in a completely different way, which is actually as a stage. So I love this. During the summer, there's a music program, and a piano is pulled out onto that porch, and people are sitting on the lawn below with their nice lawn chairs and hearing beautiful, beautiful music in this, this situation. And so we hope that through this talk, you've learned some things, and we can certainly address some of your questions. I see they're coming up about food service design and how much excitement and how much meaning and how fundamental these spaces are to campuses and to the creation of the communities that the campuses house. So thank you very much. I guess we're going to go to questions and answers, but I think that Monica, no, somebody is going to say something.
I think we read the questions. So,
we just read the questions?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
You have them. Do you have them too? So the first one is a question hoping that we would cover some of the in current events, how to deal with dining with COVID. So we did answer that, I hope. There was a question about if we have photos of the plexiglass dividers. We do not. We've only made recommendations for that. I mean, I guess we could say, Daniela, what we've done in our office.
Plexiglass partitions in our office, but they don't look like anything. They're just clear.
So if you get really clear plexiglass, and the thought with that is that it's obviously containing your space, but also it's transparent. So you're trying not, I mean, it is still a dining hall. And so these kids are still all eating together. So the hope is with the plexiglass that it's still a decent dining experience, even though we have to be separate but together. Let's see, the second question, Daniela, how about this? Are there any metrics you recommend for the sizing of dining halls in terms of seating?
So the design of a dining hall should start with the unit of the table. And I can't tell you how much time we spent at Millbrook figuring out the exact size of those tables. They are 9'6" long?
Yes.
Yeah, so the 9'6" long and really 3 feet wide, so they're not very wide.
Right.
And we did mock-ups, and we had the board of trustees and the students come and sit at the tables and decide exactly, you know, the width of the table, how much spacing between each chair, so on and so forth. So it devolves down to what you're comfortable with, what size chair you're gonna use, and how big the table wants to be. And then make sure that there's enough space between each table. So table edge to table edge should not be any less than 4'6". And 5 feet is good. In major aisles, I think you want about 6. So it's not a rule of thumb. It's just a way of thinking about the sizing. So think about the unit first, and then the size of the room should wrap around that.
And the shape of the table too.
Right.
So, I mean, depending on the community that it's serving, there's a lot, believe it or not, strong feelings about rounds, ovals, squares, rectangles. So it all comes into play in that same discussion of what's best for that community. There was a question about how is the cork floor performing in the dining hall? I can take that one. So the cork that we have in there is actually, it's 1/2 inch thick planks of cork. So it's not the cork tile that a lot of people have seen issues with over the past. This is a very durable installation and material. It's what you see in the libraries at Harvard and different places that have been there for around 50 years or so or more. So that's the idea for the cork floor, and they've had great success with it. It's soft on the footfall, but it's sealed, and it's not letting water in. So it's been wearing pretty well for them.
It's a natural material, and it does dent, but that's part of the life of the floor, and it's considered part of the beauty of the floor.
Oh, Daniela, here's this one for you. Did you apply any well principles?
Well, well did not exist as a metric when we were designing the 2 major dining rooms that we showed you. But they do incorporate a lot of the well concepts. The views to the outside, certainly, so that by sense of biophilia, the idea of having the lighting be able to be higher at some times of the day and lower at other times of the day. Our lights do not change color temperature, but we did choose in all cases lighting that's a fairly warm LED light. So it's either 2700 Kelvin or 3000. And healthy materials, thinking about all of those things. But so yes, some of those principles are incorporated.
Okay. And at the farm, are there any issues we faced with food safety while using natural cooling for food storage?
There was so much concern about this. The food service at Hotchkiss was performed by Sodexo. They're a national company, and they would not touch that food if they thought that it was in any way unsafe. So there's a lot of discussion between Sodexo and the school, and then obviously us, in terms of how are we going to meet the standards that will make the food safe to be served in the dining hall.
Yep. There's a question about how did you design out or plan for line queuing in these spaces? So I can take this one. In both dining halls, I would say Millbrook and Lawrenceville, it came into play very early on in the design of the servery and the kitchen, actually, because dining halls are serving a certain amount of students at the same time, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on time for them to get in, eat their meal comfortably, and then leave to get out to class. So there was a lot of discussion about how to create enough space, and also thinking about doorways in and doorways out. So I think in both serveries and leading into the dining rooms, what we did is we created a lot of different stations. So islands using the perimeter of the room, making the shape of the room and such that you can have different offerings in different areas. So trying to minimize crisscrossing, but giving the options for the food, you know, the salad bar, or the action station, or the fresh, you know, hot line, or the pizza line. Those were all very much thought through with, we had a food consultant as well, a kitchen consultant on the team. So very much thinking together on how to best lay out the space, which is what, you know, Daniela and I are really thinking about, and what the equipment is and the offerings are that the kitchen consultant was really thinking about.
I love the comment from Kimberly. Growing up as a potato farmer's daughter, I cannot wait to share your designs and concepts with him. Go, Kimberly.
Let's see.
Oh, Gary's here. Nice to hear you, Gary.
Hi, Gary. I feel like these questions keep shuffling, so I'm trying to get to ones that we haven't answered yet.
Budgets? Do we want to talk about budgets?
We could. I mean, in both, actually, in every project we talked about, the budget was, I would say, determined ahead of time, right? And how we typically approach projects is we design to the budget, and then at different intervals throughout the design process, we get estimates. And so it's a real check on what we've heard from the community as needs, what we've integrated into the design, and then what we're actually showing to be constructed. And so if there's with those intermediate steps and different estimates, we get a chance to revisit them if needed. I think one of the projects we had to expand the budget. It was a decision from the school to decide to spend more to get the design or the need. Because a lot of times schools are thinking about these projects and they're not, you know, it's hard to assess what they think the budget's going to be. And when you know, really dive in during the programming, what the needs are to fit, you know, to be put on campus, it sometimes is more than what's expected. Not always, but sometimes.
Well, we're about wrapping up. So if anybody has any last questions. I'll just say it's been such a pleasure putting together this talk for you. We're looking forward to continuing this discussion perhaps next year. Going through the presentation, Sennah and I had to cut out so many projects because there just wasn't time to talk about them all. So we didn't talk about student centers. We didn't talk about how classrooms can become great dining rooms. We didn't talk about faculty rooms and their small kitchens. And so we didn't talk about outdoor space necessarily, and how outdoor spaces can be structured to become really beautiful, beautiful dining rooms. So there's so much more to talk about. But we hope that you've really enjoyed what we've shared with you today. And anytime that you want to reach out to Sennah or myself, our contact information is here. And you know, follow us on Instagram, take a look at our website, and we'd be happy to answer any and more information that you want.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Truly a stunning presentation.
Thank you, Blair. It's nice.
It's so to have this a part of NeoConnect. Let's be sure to check out NeoConnect.com for information on future sessions, and LuxeHome.com for more information on LuxeHome showrooms. Thank you guys so much, and thank you all of you for attending. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.